the DJI Avata in 2023. Before we begin, I wanted to thank Megadron for making this video possible and lending out the Avata for testing. If you haven't seen other of my videos, I fly the DJI FPV with a GoPro mounted on the top. But during our recent trip to Gran Canaria on the Canary Islands, there were times where I felt like I'm just having too much gear on me. That is one of the reasons I actually downsized to the DJI Mini 3 Pro, which I took on this trip, and it was phenomenal. Which brought me to a thought, why am I carrying a full DJI FPV with the GoPro and everything, instead of having something like an Avata? And before you say you can get a pre-built drone or build one yourself, I'm not that kind of person. I just want to have FPV footage, but I'm not gonna go that extra mile to spend so much time for everything else. I wanted to have something easier to just get started. And that is why I started with DJI FPV and the GoPro on top. My thought was that getting to location with a car and just having it in my backpack is gonna be so convenient, but sometimes there are times where I just feel like I wish I had something this small in my backpack at any time, any moment, so I don't have to think about it, just take it out and start flying. And this is the reason I actually got it for testing. While I don't want to make this comparison between the DJI FPV and the DJI Avata, well, I have to compare it slightly, and it is what I'm gonna be comparing it to from my experience. And Megadron actually sent out the DJI goggles too for these tests, so this setup is even quicker now, since all you have to do is just, make the antennas go to the top and then just turn on the drone. So basically this is the whole setup time required for this drone, where I would always have to, play around with putting the antennas on the goggles, then the propellers on the DJI FPV. After that, I would have to put the GoPro on the top and then, check my goggles and check the GoPro if I'm seeing the same thing, or at least around the same thing, which always takes time and just makes the whole process not convenient. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of times I felt throughout the trip that I just didn't feel like, having the whole hassle of setting it up, where testing this setup, this is so much different. I can get flying within a minute. Literally a minute. And just so you know, I actually fly full manual with the DJI controller too, which I have from the DJI FPV, but it works with the Avata. But how does it stack up to the competition? In my opinion, this might be the best FPV drone in 2023, and hear me out why. With the updates to the camera with the 10-bit quality, it just records so much better footage. I didn't get the chance to use it with an ND filter, but I was lucky enough to fly at least once in a perfect condition to have the shutter as I wanted. So basically perfect conditions as if I had an ND filter. And comparing it to GoPro from the DJI FPV, I really couldn't tell the difference. It wasn't a huge difference in quality in terms of the sheer quality. I'm pretty sure that 99% of the people would not be able to tell which one was from this and which one was from the GoPro once it was, done and ready for post-production after the gyro flow, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Well, there was really no difference. And to be honest, I think I even like the colors from the DJI Avata, so the decent footage, more than the GoPro. And it could be that I'm just more used to color grading it, but it is how I feel like. I feel like it's so easy to get it into a good spot. So one thing that I was worried about the Avata was the footage. I said, I'm taking it for testing to see if I could potentially replace my whole big bulky setup and downsize it to Avata without a GoPro. I know it has its downsides, and the camera could be one. So that was one of the things I was kind of a little bit worried, and I have to say it delivered. And while the Avata cannot go as fast as the DJI FPV, which could result in slower footage, the thing is, I can fly this thing lower to the ground and just in more convenient places, and also through things that I would not risk with the DJI FPV. With this, I know that if I somehow hit something or something goes wrong, it should be able to stay alive. This drone has been through a little bit. I can actually see marks of grass here and there, and it's still flying perfectly fine. This is what I heard a lot of the times, and maybe I didn't crash it, that I can actually say that, you know, this and this broke or this didn't break. But I can tell from other people that this is a tank, and especially compared to DJI FPV, which I'm always super careful not to fly into something, just not going that extra mile just because I don't want to break it. Where this, I was flying so comfortably. It just feels so much more comfortable than something like a DJI FPV because I was not afraid of crashing. And because of its smaller frame, it is much easier to fit wherever you want to fly by, and it just feels a little bit more safer. Even if I hit the ground because I'm flying too low, it should be all fine. It should be much more protected than the DJI FPV or other FPVs. This is like a Cinewhoop, so that is making sense. The DJI actually updated the Avata to 10-bit footage, meaning that the colors and the post-production process from this footage is even better than before. Another benefit of this setup is not only that I can actually pack it so lightly, I can just put the controller, the smaller goggles, and the Avata in my, you know, like a shoulder bag, and I can have it with me at all times. I can set it up in within a minute. There is something that I didn't think about before. If ever I wanted to slow down, the GoPro is going to be stuck in one position, where here I had moments where I was flying slower, so I put the, you know, the gimbal a little bit lower, and then I wanted to just start flying faster. I can put the gimbal while I'm starting to go faster, which is much more convenient. So the quality of the footage doesn't get worse, and you know, you're flying with a smaller drone, which is a benefit overall. But there's two things that I wanted to mention here that might be a deal breaker for someone. First off, this is a Cinewhoop. It is not gonna fly as fast as DJI FPV. And it's a plus and a minus, because the plus here is I found myself flying better with this. It just feels more agile and more responsive. And also because you're flying a little bit slower, you can actually do a little bit more risky maneuvers. Where on FPV, I find myself sometimes overshooting, so I have to, instead of taking a turn, I would fly a little bit farther just to compensate for that speed, which isn't always the best thing. I don't always have to be going 160 kilometers an hour, because this can be a benefit for you in terms of how you fly it. Like I said, I feel much more comfortable flying and doing extreme maneuvers with this drone, even though I should not, because it's not as strong as the DJI FPV. Just the build quality and the way it flies feels a little bit more smooth and a little bit more responsive. But going to the responsive part, I'm probably sure you're thinking, what about the case people said that the drone is just, you know, going down? I was trying to replicate the, you know, the yaw turn that happens, which just turns the drone down and flying into the ground. See, the thing is, if you are doing a turn and you're doing it on the side, nothing is gonna happen. But if you do a very harsh cut and at the same time don't, you know, bend a little bit, just go straight like this, it can happen if you do it precisely in that movement. And I did replicate it. I finally did, and it finally did happen to do this, but after just milliseconds, it corrected itself and turned into normal mode, and then I had to go over to manual again. So basically, this means it has like a bend-aid fix, so if it happens and it has enough of space, if it's not like a meter above the ground, it should be able to correct itself and stay in that position waiting for you. The thing is, well, it all depends how high you're gonna fly, and better yet, how much you understand this drone. Because if you know the limitation of that drone and you know that cut is gonna make it, you can actually just go around it and try to do a little bit more, you know, push it a little bit to the side so that it's a little bit different kind of a turn, but still provides the same cut. Basically, I found myself not having any problems with turns. The more I pushed it, the more I knew what it's capable of and how I can actually work with that. I know people had it fly down. For me, it happened in the sky and it corrected itself, but I don't think I would do that kind of turn that low to the ground, so it should be fine with that. The only thing I am kind of worried about is the higher winds. I have seen footage with this drone flying in huge winds and it was doing fine. And better for me, for the testing, we had a day where it was just, you know, pretty much like a storm in terms of wind. And it did fly. It did. I had to fly a little bit on the side, kind of fighting the wind, but I was able to keep it pretty much safe and fly with it. I have flown in extreme weather conditions with the DJI FPV, where I would actually feel like I'm hardly moving forward and then really zipping past the back way. This with a similar winds, well, I just had to fly slightly on the side and it did well, but it is probably not gonna do as good as DJI FPV. And we actually even tested out this controller, the first RC motion controller, and we tested out with Avata, and Evie was actually the one flying because I wanted to see how quickly someone that never flown a drone can get to flying. And you know what? Literally, there was no practice in this. She just started flying right away, which was really cool to see someone that never experienced FPV have fun flying FPV. It's gonna be slower, but it's still gonna be fun. And the best example of that, once we finished our first time flying with this controller, she said she wished there was more batteries because she would love to fly a little bit more. So she definitely had fun flying this, and it is really easy to use and, you know, just fly with the motion controller. But for me, this is not something I'm gonna use. This is more like a gimmick for me. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you want to fly with the normal and sport mode, this is a great controller, really precise, you can really have fun with it. And if you are looking for the, the manual, you have to get the other controller. And one last thing that I forgot to mention in this video before is the battery life. Because this doesn't have the GoPro like the DJI FPV for me, it did feel like I had much more battery because it was draining less power to have that GoPro on the top. The battery was longer and just you could fly for a little bit more, and we got the flight mode combo for the testing, so we had 3 batteries, which was perfect for flying. The only downside I have to say is the charging of the batteries. It takes a long time, so I guess I need to try with a different charger if I am to switch to Avata. I use my phone charger, which is a 65-watt charger. It didn't really work, it was really slow, and I'm gonna have to try with different chargers. I even tried the charger from the DJI FPV, that didn't work. It was really slow. That is the caveat I can live with. It doesn't really matter how fast or slow it charges as long as it's ready for the next day of shooting. Overall, I feel like there's pretty much no competition to this drone on the market right now. I know you can have pre-built drones and yeah, they have their benefits, but I feel like this has like a beautiful combination of good quality, good aspect in terms of like flying. It is pretty durable, and like I said, it has nice footage, easy to pack, lightweight, really great drone overall. To me, I think this is the one that I feel is the best for travel content at the moment, for someone like me that doesn't want to build their own drones. And while this is not as fast as FPV, it definitely delivers. So in conclusion, this drone, in my opinion, in 2023 is one hell of a drone. It's an amazing drone that I really have to recommend. If you're into FPV or you want to get into FPV, or maybe you're like me and you do travel content, I can definitely say this is an amazing drone for that. It is very easy to pack it up and have it with you at all times. With that being said, it is gonna be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.